All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our activities for the Xenia City Council this evening. And first, I'm going to have Pastor Todd Martin from Liberty Worship Center. Everybody, please rise. And Todd, thank you for coming tonight. And if you'll lead us in a prayer before we get started with our meeting, please.
Sure. Let's bow our heads. Father, we come before you tonight, and we ask that you would just cover us with your grace and your mercy. And Lord, I thank you for this council and all of the departments that are represented. And Lord, I pray that you will just send your peace and your unity here in this place. And we're so grateful for a city that would allow you to be represented tonight. And we thank you, and we give you honor tonight. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Can you please face the flag, and Councilwoman Dean, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order at this time. And our first item will be a roll call.
Vice President Smith.
Here.
Councilman Scrivens.
Here.
Councilwoman Dean. Here. Councilman Branham.
Here.
Councilman Dean. Mayor Mays. President Urschel.
Here. I'd like to make a motion that we excuse the absence of the mayor. She had a previous engagement, and also for Councilman Dean, he had another engagement as well, and they contacted me earlier this week and asked to be excused.
I'll second that.
Second that motion. Any comments before we vote? All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens.
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
Aye.
Councilman Branham.
Aye.
President Urschel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Next item will be the approval of minutes of our May 25th, 2023 council meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any comments from council folks before we vote on that?
And, Mr. President?
Yes.
The minutes reflect that we established, I'm trying to time.
Okay.
The minutes reflect that we had a couple of delegations,
Yes.
and I think that'll be a good thing, because that'll allow us to have liaison with other entities that reflect wholly on what we do.
Correct.
So,
Great. Thanks, Tommy. Yes. All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith.
Abstain.
Councilman Scrivens.
aye.
Councilwoman Dean.
I wasn't here last meeting. Just
No, you'll have to abstain as well.
Yes.
It's okay. Councilman Branham.
Aye.
President Urschel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have no special presentations this evening. Next up is audience comments. If you'd like to come and address the council, feel free to come to the podium. If you please state your name and your address, and you have 3 to 5 minutes to make a statement if you'd like to. So, does anyone in the audience would like to address the council?
Do you want to let everybody know why we're casual today?
Yes. Just another comment. We're dressed casual, much more so than we normally are. In council meetings, we're having a walking bus tour of a number of the city locations. We do this on a yearly basis, so we'd ask the council to dress down, because we're going to go to a few areas that we may actually get dirty a little bit as well. So I apologize for that in our dress this evening to the rest of you in the audience. All right. Okay. No requests for audience comments. I don't believe we had any digitally either, Michelle?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. First item of old business is ordinance 2023-13, amending sections 1222.04B, table 2012-22-3, 1222.05C, 1222.05D, 1222.05F, 1224.01D, Table 1224-1 and 1244.02 of the Land Development Code. That was introduced by Councilwoman Dean on 4/27/23 and tabled at our 5/11/2023 meeting. So the first request that it has would be that we would have a motion to untable this item. Do I have a motion for that? So moved by Councilwoman Dean. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second that? All right. Any comments from council before we vote on that? To untable this item? Okay, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith.
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Next, we've had introduced by our staff a fairly significant amendment to this ordinance,
Soon as
which
you have.
we've had an opportunity to go over with staff at some working sessions as well. And I would like to ask if we have a motion to amend this ordinance as initially introduced by replacing the original Exhibit A with the amended Exhibit A that are part of our meeting package here. Do I have a motion on
Motion
that?
for the replacement.
Motion for the replacement. Councilman Scrivens, you making the motion?
Yes, sir. Motion for the
Great.
replacement.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Smith?
Took us a long time to get here.
Right, and I'm just gonna ask the staff if you just give us a brief summary for the benefit of the folks in the audience as to some of the changes from the original amendment to the amendment, or the original introduction to the amendment that we have here.
To our final,
Yes.
final output.
Just a brief summary of that.
Just what was deleted. That's all.
Basically, the amendments that were made, the Ohio Revised Code, because the departments of the state are all regulated by different chapters, Department of Mental Health, Department of Developmental Disabilities, are all separate chapters under the ORC. They all have different definitions for what certain types of group homes, family living are. We had based the original exhibit on those definitions. After some further review, we did have talk with some contacts we have at the Department of Justice. We also had Thad Boggs from Frost, Brown, and Todd review. We had just drilled down too far, I think is the easiest way to say it. We backed it up a little bit. We expanded and did more umbrella definitions. So for example, an outpatient treatment facility would be categorized and under the same umbrella as any medical treatment office. So that was the biggest change, just to kind of pull back a little bit, create more umbrella, make sure that we were treating those type of uses the same under those umbrella definitions.
Great. And we, as I mentioned, we'd had an opportunity to go over these proposed changes with the staff in previous meetings, working sessions with the council. And I believe you'd also said that you had an opportunity to bring those proposed changes back to the other folks you contacted outside our organization to get their concurrence or blessing as well. Yes.
Mr. President, just add that included with this are some changes that were originally included, were some changes to the B2 district as well.
Right.
We did not modify those recommended changes from the original version, so those are included in this as well.
Correct. Right. Great. Okay. Any discussion from council before we vote on accepting the amendment to the original attachment A, Exhibit A?
As they say on the floor of Congress, motion in favor of the substitute. So.
Great. All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now, normally, what would then occur with this is that we would have a public hearing and then a vote on this. This is our second meeting on this. However, since this is such this is potentially such a large change to the original introduction, and per our council rules, if that's true, we need to take a vote from the council to say whether we believe this is a substantive and it's a matter of substance in terms of that change. And that then, if we vote on that, that will then mean that we will have the public hearing at our next council meeting and vote at that time to also allow the public have an opportunity to review that and have sufficient time to digest that and come back and have discussion at the public hearing. So, do I have a motion finding this amendment as a matter of substantive change?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Scrivens. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Second that by Councilman Branham. Any comments from council before we vote on that? Okay, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. So, since we found that to be a this amendment to this ordinance 2023-13 is a matter of substance. We will not be voting on that this evening, but we will have our public hearing at our next council meeting, and we'll be voting on the ordinance at our next council meeting. What's the date again?
June 22nd.
June 22nd. After the public hearing, we'll be doing the vote.
The final vote.
The final vote on the ordinance, correct. Okay. Next item of business, old business, is ordinance 2023-15. This is a public hearing tonight. This is amending the official zoning map of the city of Xenia, Ohio to rezone the property at 855 Lower Bellbrook Road from I-1 Light Industrial District to O1 Office District, and this was introduced by the Mayor Mays on 5/25/2023. So at this time, we're going to be going into a public hearing just shortly, but I'd like Mr. City Manager to just make, once again, a brief statement
Clear us up.
on this, and before we go into the public hearing.
Yeah, this particular property is being requested for a zoning change from I-1 Light Industrial to O1 Office District. The property is in a location where staff believes that this change would conform with the surrounding uses. The property owner has an opportunity for a lease for a tenant that the city is very supportive of. We think would be a good fit in this particular location. But in order for that particular use to be accommodated in the space, the zoning change would have to take place. So I believe this was endorsed by Planning and Zoning Commission, and staff believes this is an appropriate change. We recommend such for council.
Great, thank you. All right, any questions for the city manager before we go to the public hearing? Okay. So this time, we are now going to have a public hearing on ordinance 2023-15. If there's anyone in the public that would like to speak either in favor of or against, or have some comments neither in favor or against, but just some observations on this, please, at this time, please come to the podium and state your name and address, and you may address council.
Evening, Jeremy Irvin, 921 Orville Way in Xenia. I'm speaking on behalf of the Community STEAM Academy Xenia, who will be using the property if the approval is allowed. And I'm also speaking on behalf of the owners, the current owners of the Mount Holly. They are actually at a Xenia Township meeting right now, and they couldn't be here to represent, so they asked me to speak on their behalf. We have a great working relationships. We have a contract already in place, and it's contingent upon the modification of the zoning from this. Based on all of the information that we looked at, along with working with the city, we don't see any issues whatsoever with this change. And in fact, because it's able to actually lease a building that's been vacant for quite some time, we can see it being very beneficial. And so one of the things I did just want to make mention is this is really an ideal situation for the school. The facility itself is exactly what we've been looking for any of our facilities. And so as we're renovating both the former Y building and the former East High School building, we're trying to make this large open space in order for us to be able to bring in these walling systems that don't look temporary, but they are, and allow us to redesign the learning spaces so that depending upon the project that's being done, the teams of teachers can redesign the space. And because this was ultimately a call center as such, there are two really large open spaces there that will have the ability to take everything that we had already previously ordered for the renovated former YMCA building. We're able just to instead of deliver it at that address, deliver it to this alternative site. And so it's really allowing us this ability to open with a cost that we can do without having to completely get all the construction done. which we're continuing to work on to finish. And the goal will be then to take those grades 6 to 9 that will open up this coming fall upon approval. And then they'll transition to the refurbished former YMCA. That will then allow us to open even earlier the elementary programming in that facility so that we have time to renovate the former East High School building on Market Street. And then with that in place, we'll end up with 3 facilities to be utilized across all of the grade bands, providing us a lot of opportunity to provide the STEAM alternative education program. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. Would anyone else like to comment before we vote on this? All right, I'm closing the public hearing at this time. All right, do I have a motion?
I will. Council President, I'll
Yes.
introduce since
Oh, that's correct, I'm sorry.
Mayor Mays is absent.
Yes, great, thank you so much, yeah. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Great. Okay, any more comments from council? Okay. Let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good luck with that.
Next item is ordinance 2023-16, determining to proceed with the improvement of city streets and public ways by the lighting thereof within the street lighting district number 4, the Edenbridge subdivision, for the years 2024 through 2027. And this was introduced by Councilman Dean at our last council meeting. We'll also have a public hearing for this item too. And Mr. City Manager, if you just refresh everyone here again as to what's being the body of this ordinance here that we're going to be considering.
Yeah, pursuant to council policy, with the addition of new subdivisions that would prefer street lighting, we do have a policy that a portion of that is paid through this assessment process. And this is for the Edenbridge subdivision, which would be district number 4. And so this would provide for those assessments for that street lighting amenity that would be added to that subdivision.
I'm hoping they heard you.
And this is coming at their request, I should note.
All right. At this time, we're going to go ahead and open our public hearing on this ordinance. If there's anyone who would like to come and comment on this ordinance, either in favor of or against, or just to make observations on this, please feel free to come to the podium at this time. Just state your name and your address, and you can address council. Okay, seeing no one coming forward, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We had the introduction by Councilman Dean.
Yeah, President Urschel, in his absence, I'll introduce that.
Great, thanks so much. Do I have a second?
So move.
All right, any comments from council before we vote? All right, let's call the vote.
Vice President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
President Urschel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you so much. We have no new business for this evening. Let's go to appointed officials reports, starting with Mr. Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. I would just note that I did send to Council earlier today the monthly report for the end of May. I'd encourage you, if you get a chance, to take a look at that report. There's some pretty encouraging numbers, especially on the income tax front. Some very good things happening in the local economy that are fairly encouraging. So all isn't roses, but I think we're in a much better place here at the beginning of June than what we had projected to start the year. So some positive developments on that front. I'd encourage everybody to take a look at that report and let me know if you have any questions about its contents. But that's all I have this evening.
Great, thank you. Any questions for our Finance Director? Okay, Madam Law Director.
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Great. I'd just make one comment. I got a call from a municipality in Eastern Ohio that is looking at passing an ordinance very similar to ours that we just passed here with our zoning. And they had mentioned that they were using our motions and our ordinance as a template. And I said, well, those are public documents at this time. But I also said that if they had any legal questions, I gave them your name. Oh, it'd be much better for them to discuss those with you. So just want to give you a heads up. But anyways, they were very appreciative of the work that our city had done, and it was a smaller municipality, about 6,000. They don't have a full-time law director, and they said, without another municipality stepping forward and doing the work, they never would have been able to even be able to engage with something like that. So they had a lot of praise for the work that you and the rest of the team done, and Ryan, you guys had done, and they were very appreciative of it. So I just want to pass that on.
Well, that's why I've always stayed so involved in the Ohio Municipal Attorneys Association. I think it's very important that Ohio municipalities, cities and villages, support each other, particularly in light of the state trying to control so much of what we do.
Right. So great. Well, thank you so much, Jeanette. And Ryan, thank you so much too for your folks in the work there. All right, Mr. City Director.
Thanks, sir. I have a couple items this evening, all brief. First, I just wanted to piggyback on the Finance Director's comments relative to his May financial report. We had committed to council that we wanted to get another month's data on revenue and expenses in order to arrive at some conclusions for our budgeting purposes for 2024. Now that we've had that and had an opportunity to have some review with the Finance Department, we'll be working to set up a follow-up budget committee.
Right.
And I think we are looking to do that before the June 22nd meeting, if that's possible.
Sure.
If not, we'd like to get it done shortly thereafter.
Sure.
So members of that committee should look forward to some communication on that. Second, a couple of upcoming events that we want to make sure that the public is aware of. First, Juneteenth is June 19th. City offices will be closed in observance of that holiday. We'll be reopened the following day. And then we also want to remind folks that we'll be closed on July 4th for that holiday, but our local community festival for the independent season is our Red, White, and Blue block party and Sunday Camp Fireworks Festival. That will be held this year on July 7th. We always do it the first Friday of July. So we'll have activities commencing downtown around 4 p.m. With additional activities commencing at Shawnee Park at around 5 p.m. This is a very family-friendly, family-oriented activity. All kinds of local churches and businesses, enterprises that will be donating both volunteer help as well as resources to help bring all kinds of entertainment and activities, almost all of which is free. We'll, of course, have food trucks both downtown and at the park. All of this then concluding with fireworks at sunset, approximately 9-ish, 9:30-ish. Hopefully no rain this year. We are working on some modified procedures that, should there be some inclement weather, we will have better communication system out there for folks so they can better predict what our start time will be. We had some complications with that last year. So we encourage folks to come out and plan to come out and participate in that. We actually had some data that we were able to get from last year, and we were astounded by the attendance that we were able to estimate. As in, we think between downtown and at the park, we're probably in the range of 15,000 attendees, and that's through cell phone pings and so forth, of which more than half actually did not reside in 45385. So obviously that event is drawing a large crowd, which we think benefits our local businesses. So just to invite folks to look forward to those activities, and we of course have a walking tour tonight, and we'll be participating in that here shortly. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Okay. Next item is council comments and reports. Councilman Wendine.
I have a lot of comments.
Yep.
But no reports.
Nothing, just looking forward to the walking tour.
Great. Good. Councilman Branham.
Yeah, just want to say thank you. I was unable to attend, but I heard great things about the fishing derby from some cousins of mine last Saturday, so great work with that. Also wanted to mention the annual Gene Fisher Flag Day ceremony is this Wednesday at 6 p.m. at the fairgrounds. I know Sheriff Anger, Ryan Arnett with Mormons, and Kirk Anderson with Anderson Landscape and Dumpsters. They all pitch in a lot and volunteer a lot of time with the effort of that. So local Xenia businesses that help out with that county event. So I plan on attending that on Wednesday. So just wanted to invite everybody else out to it.
Great, thanks. Councilman Scrivens.
Thank you, Mr. President. In conjunction with Councilman Brennan, I have a tattered flag that's been flying, and I'll be retiring it and taking it over and having it retired permanently. So that's good to have. We haven't had a public safety committee meeting in over 45 days. I'm gonna request that we impanel that committee and get an agenda so we'll be up on what's going on in public safety. Just a couple comments. Saying farewell to Dennis Dean, Xenia High School class of '66. He's gone on to glory. He played on the Xenia High School football team, and he was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2014. Held a bachelor's from Kent State and a master's from Wright State. Taught in the Beaver Creek school system for 30 years. So take care, Dennis. And then the other one is Mike Maxwell, Xenia High School class of '66. And both these gentlemen were superior in their lifetimes, and they will be missed. Other than that, Mr. President, I'm anxious to get this walking tour started.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Right, I don't have anything tonight.
No comments? Great.
Right on to our tour.
Okay. I have no additional comments either. We have no executive session for this evening. Next item on our agenda is a work session. This is going to be an off-site walking bus tour of various locations of the city. And since this is a working session, the public is invited. If they would like to come with us, we're going to be boarding some buses down here.
Or they can meet us at those locations if they wish.
Yeah. We're going to be going to 3 or 4 different locations if you want to accompany us for that. So I'm going to request that we adjourn to our working session and take a 5-minute break to do that. Do I need to vote on that?
Yeah.
Just adjourn.
Can I just adjourn?
Or
go and
just
take
a
break?
recess.
Recess.
Okay, so let's recess for 5 minutes. We'll meet down at the buses down and continue on with our work session.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.